My name's Annalisa Emerson, and I'd like to tell you about my mother and my involvement in Alzheimer's research here at the UW and why we were better subjects to study than animals who don't get this uniquely human disease. My mother suffered from Alzheimer's the last 10 years while she lived with us. Alzheimer's develops in the brain without any symptoms, and because she had been diagnosed with the disease in 2000, and I, her child, have a 50% risk chance of developing it, the studies of Dr. Mark Sager and Dr. Sterling Johnson that I've been involved in since 2002 have much more relevance to humans than any animal studies. They can study at-risk humans and follow the disease over 15 years to detect factors causing the disease. Sophisticated technology such as MRIs and PET scans are used to image what occurs within the brain non-invasively. They can detect changes in amyloid plaques and blood flow in the brain while you're engaged in simple mental tasks. They put you through challenging neuropsychological testing for indications of cognitive decline. Our medical records were examined and other lifestyle and behavioral information, and at each visit, blood was drawn and collected for ongoing genetic tests and future studies. We both agreed to donate our brain tissue at death. Brain tissue was collected upon her passing. A brain autopsy was also done. Autopsies are underutilized in medicine. They can definitively diagnose the cause of death. Today's technology gives us a window into the brain of a human disease which a monkey's brain can't duplicate. No real advances have been made in Alzheimer's animal trials. Treatments that worked on monkeys failed when tried on people. Encouraging data with monkeys in 2002 went on to clinical trials, which were suspended following central nervous system inflammation and strokes in 15 human participants. We are very biologically different in brain activity down to the molecular genetic level. Jared Bailey writes in his Non-Human Primates in Medical Research and Drug Development a critical review about all of the neurological differences. Aisha Akhtar in May 2006 also described huge differences between the human and the monkey brain. It takes 136 days for a monkey brain to develop versus 470 days for the human. The human cortex has 10 times the surface area of a monkey's. The V1 area, one of the predominant visual areas in the brain, makes up 10% of the total cortex in monkeys and only 3% of the total cortex in humans. There's many more differences as well. With today's advanced technology and human-based methods, there is no reason to harm animals to advance science. There's plenty of evidence from scientists showing that animal research is irrelevant, misleading, and often harms humans, such as with thalidomide and Vioxx, lately also with the TGN 1214, and that funding gets diverted from more relevant, humane, and human-based studies. Please vote for Resolution 35 so that we have an opportunity to become informed and carefully examine the moral issue of experimentation happening in our own community. It affects us all, needs to be addressed, and not simply dismissed. Let's use this opportunity to prove how progressive our community really is. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, my name is John Barnes. I'm a veterinarian. I opened a clinic here in Madison in the late 60s. And since that time, I've been involved with animal protection issues on a sometimes regular basis, sometimes not. But at any rate, I was an early participant and organizer of Mobilization for Animals, which was at that time the largest protest against primate research centers across the country, including the one here in Madison. And I personally reviewed scores of research protocols, most of which were blacked out. In other words, you can probably see the black marks on some of these forms, and this one here. This is quite typical of what information we were denied. There was a spokesperson for the UW on this issue. UW Senior Legal Counsel John Dowling in 2005 letter denying a public records request for videotapes of the university's primate experiments. The statement was, the public interest in non-disclosure outweighs the interest in disclosure. Explain that to me if you could. There's a lot to hide, obviously. That's what we're trying to get at. That's why we're asking for this review.
My name is Deanna Duvall. I'm here this evening because I need and want
as so many other of your constituents, you, the Executive Committee, to know how imperative it is for you to vote in favor of Resolution 35. The resolution would allow an advisory panel to study 3 issues to experimenting on monkeys. Webster's Dictionary defines a study, a careful examination or analysis or phenomena, development, or question. This in itself is good reason to go forth with a resolution, as human lives are at stake, not to exclude the immense suffering the monkeys are forced to endure. As a nurse for 42 years, I am extremely concerned about the direction of medicine. Every effort must be taken to ensure human health and wellness, so one may enjoy a quality of life. Evidence-based research using the animal model, especially monkeys, to prevent and cure human disease has proven to be ineffective, and in fact, in some cases, it derails research. The best example of research on monkeys contributing to human detriment is polio. Misleading results based on erroneous route of infection delayed a vaccine for years. Human lives, time, energy, and money are wasted when monkeys are used in research. It only makes sense to me. If one wants to study a species, why not study that species?
Hello, my name is Joe Radish. I'm a high school biology teacher, and I've come to address the council in support of Proposition 35. Many times as I've come to this time and place in my life, I've had the opportunity and privilege to understand animal behavior. I've studied prairie spiders while I received my degree at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Excuse me. And during the study, I witnessed a female spider as I was removing her egg sacs to grab the forceps that I was using with her pedipalps to try and pull her egg sacs back. She knew that she was about to lose her young, and she knew that the forceps was the ones that was removing the eggs from her web by not grabbing the egg sac in the instrument herself. So I wondered as a young boy why chimpanzees and also why tigers would pace back and forth in front of the cage. And I used to think as a young boy that, well, they were just showing us who they are. But I've come to find that that is not necessarily the case. What they're really doing is that they are bored, they're nervous, and what they're doing is they're pacing back and forth in nervous behavior. Inmates in cells call that stir. So you may have heard someone say it's okay to do with animals as we choose because God gave them to us to do as we please. But I ask you to consider something else that makes us human, something that separates us from animals, and that's empathy. I'm sure moms everywhere understand exactly how that spider felt whenever I was removing the eggs from the web. Let's go a step further and see so we can understand the suffering these animals go through, such as the primates here that are captured and removed from their homes, away from their parents, put into a jail far from where they've lived with no hope of parole, and then to die a lonely death. You as a panel have heard and will hear numerous stories about how animals are needed to advance research for the advancement of human medicine. Study after study has revealed research does not benefit human medicine. A 2005 study conducted in Europe published a statistic that 99.7% of animal experiments fail to predict human outcomes, while the remaining 3% have had no value. Dr. Jane Goodall herself stated in an interview that animal research does not lead to anything meaningful. Dane County conducts experiments on over 9,000 non-human primates, not to mention other animals used. Today we have a chance to create a meaningful study on the ethical treatment of these animals. It has been said that money greases the wheel of progress, but sometimes it's more important to consider the surroundings we live in and the message we send to their future. What message do I send to your children, the children I teach every day in school? Do I tell them it's okay to continue with the things as they are? Or that we've made strides as a species and show empathy to our fellow inhabitants of the planet? Thank you.